In this video, I'm going to be going over how to get Uptime Kuma installed and configured on a Hive OS instance. Uptime Kuma is essentially an uptime monitoring platform that you can install locally on your network, and you can point it to pretty much any HTTP URL, any TCP port, and pretty much monitor anything either externally or internally. And so today we're going to show you how to get that up and running on your Hive OS rigs. Maybe you're running a master node service like I am. Maybe you're running a Flux node service on your network. You know, there can be a handful of things. And maybe you just want to monitor the uptime and get notified if it ever goes offline. And you're able to do this without going through any type of paid services and without really the limitations that Uptime Robot has. There's two methods of installation that they provide. One is via Docker, and one is via some native things through Node.js. The Node.js stuff, it's really complicated to make it work in Hive OS, so I recommend going the Docker route. It's very seamless to get set up and running, and that's what we're going to be doing today. I have a rig that already has Docker installed, but if you don't, it's a simple command of apt install docker.io. And we're going to hop over here. Like I said, we already have Docker installed. We're going to go ahead and remote into this system via PuTTY. And just to verify Docker's installed, we can just run the Docker command. And here we can see it's running. I've got some containers running right now. Actually, several. And so let's go over the steps to actually install it in Docker, and then we'll configure it. First thing we want to do is we want to create a folder that will act as persistent storage for the Docker container to use. You can either use a Docker volume or a folder. For this instance, I'm just going to use a folder. So we're just going to do make directory, and let's just name this. I'll put this in user, and I'm just going to name this Uptime Kuma. And now what we want to do is we want to do the Docker command. So it's going to be docker run. We're going to run it detached. Restart always. So we always want it up and running even if it crashes. And we need to specify the port that we want it to run on. By default, it'll run on port 3001. For my case, I'm just taking a look here at some ports that I'm using. Let's go ahead and run this on port 8001. So we're going to do /p and 8001:3001. And then specify our volume mapping. It's going to be -v and then space /usr/uptime robot Kuma. And then we can do :/app data. So we're going to map that folder that we created to the app data folder on the Docker container. And then we're just going to name this Uptime Kuma. And then we need to specify the name of the container on the Docker repo. So let's just go ahead and do that. And go ahead and hit enter. Oops. Go ahead and hit enter, and it will download. It'll start downloading the image. This may take a minute or two. It's installed, and it should be up and running. So we'll just do a docker ps, and just make sure that Uptime Kuma's in here, and it looks like it is. It's up for 12 seconds. Looks like it's still starting. So let's go ahead, and I know it still says starting, but let's see if we can navigate to the URL. So it's just going to be the IP address of that server, whatever port you specified. So for me, it's going to be port 8001. And here we can see it's going to ask us to set up an admin account. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. there we go. Throws us into the dashboard. And now we can start adding monitors. So one of the things that I want to do is I'm going to add the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a monitor for a TCP port. And I'm going to call this Zoc master node. And our host name, you've got a couple options here. You can use just the IP address if you want. If it's an internal service, just use the internal IP. If it's an external service, I recommend trying to use the external IP. That way it's going out your network and back in to validate the connection. In my case, I actually have DNS routed to the IP range that I am wanting to use. So I can actually just use, should be able to just use my host name. And the port I want is going to be port 10,000. And that's running my Zoc node. And this one's going to check every 60 seconds. The fastest you can do is every 20 seconds. Even 60 seconds is pretty excessive. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave that as is. And then this setting here is pretty important. Both of these actually. So if it's down, what do you want the retry interval to be? And do you want it to resend notifications after it's been down for so many times, consequently? And then we need to set up a notification. But I'm going to save this first. And here we can see it is up. So everything's good there. Eventually these will all fill up with green. But now what we need to do is we need to set up a notification. If we go to settings over here, we can go down to notifications. We can do setup notification. And these are all of the different types of notifications that you can do with this platform. It really supports a lot of things, including you can do things like Slack, you can do Telegram, you can do Discord. But for me, I personally love pushover. I have pushover on all my phones and all my mobile devices, so I'm going to do pushover. And then I'm going to head on over to the pushover website, and I'm going to grab some API keys, and let's get this configured. Alright, we've got our user key and our application token generated over on pushover. Got those pasted in. And now we have some things that we can configure. I'm going to leave all these as the default, but you can choose to set specific sounds. If you want the phone to ding, you can set the priority. You can explicitly set the title and also the device. I'm going to leave those blank. And I'm going to set this as the default. That way, any new monitoring service I create will automatically use this notification. And then you also, if you had set them up previously, set up all the monitors, you can actually check this, and it'll apply it to all. So when I do this, I'm going to hit test. This is going to send a notification to my phone, which just popped up. I'm going to hit save. And if you notice here, if we go to edit, you can see pushover is turned on. Another nice thing is that you can have multiple notifications for specific monitoring events, which is really nice. So the next thing we're going to do is, just as another example, we can go ahead and set up flux monitoring. So for flux, what we're going to do is we're going to do a TCP port. And I'm just going to call this flux node number 1. And once again, I'm going to use my same host name, because that's what I want to use. And then I'm going to specify the flux port that my first node is running on, which is 16126. And we're going to leave everything else as the default for now. Go ahead and hit save. And here you can see it detected that it's up. which is perfect. And when you come in here, you can see the pings. You can pretty much see, once it starts to populate, you will see some additional data. So here's a graph that will kind of show you what those response times were. So you can kind of use this to judge, if you're getting high loads on the system or not, and it's impacting the service response times. And this will refresh in real time, as you probably just saw. It kind of move along there. And you can view that from a historical standpoint as well. If you're familiar with Atlassian status page, this works very similar to that. In fact, you can hide the status. You can actually create status pages here if you want to. We're not going to do that, but that is an option as well. And then here's kind of your overview dashboard. You get to it by just selecting dashboard at the top, and it'll tell you how many you have up, how many are down, unknown, or paused. And then if you're putting something in like a maintenance mode or anything like that, you don't want to get notified, you can just come in here. You can say pause. It'll pause the monitoring. And then you can come back in and say resume. In addition, you can monitor specific URLs. So if there's a specific URL that you're running that you want to know whether it's up or down, a good example for this would be something like storage. For storage, we have two options here. We could either do TCP port or HTTPS. So let's take a look and see what the difference is with that. If we did HTTPS, we would just do storage. Let's just do HTTP, or we'll just do storage portal. Paste in the URL, and we're gonna hit save. And here you can see it's up, gets us response 200. And then the other way we could do it is we could come in and we could say storage TCP, switch that to a TCP port, and plug in our host name or our IP address, and then we could do our port. In this case, it's going to be 14002. Hit save. And here you can see it's up that way as well. So that's two different ways to monitor that. And that works mainly because storage has its own web dashboard, where something like the 01 coin masternode doesn't have a web dashboard, right? It's solely a Windows service. However, it's opening up a listening port, and so we're able to monitor that listening port. That's a lot more important than having, a web front end. In addition, there is a HTTP keyword option as well. And what this can do is, a lot of times you'll have service status pages that maybe are exposed through your application, and it just outputs a code to the screen, whether that is just a success message or whatever it may be. This specific monitoring type actually allows you to read and parse out the contents of that page and either alarm on it or not. So that's another useful type as well. And then of course there's always just the standard ping if you needed a ping service. For most of my processes, I just do TCP port because that is, the most common and easiest to kind of work with, regardless of how it's exposing its ports, right? And whether there's a web GUI to it or not, you can pretty much always rely on TCP port, assuming it is a TCP connection and not a UDP connection. So another example of this could be Mysterium. So let's see what would be needed to monitor our Mysterium node. So for Mysterium, we can just do a TCP port, do Mysterium node, and we can do our IP address of our Mysterium node, which is actually running on this same system. but I'll do the full IP just in case it ever changes. And 4449 is the web dashboard. So we can go ahead and do that. And you can see it is up and running. Do some cleanup here from some test records. We can get rid of the DNS one. Flux one I actually care about. The storage, we'll get rid of the portal one. And on the TCP one, we'll just remove that off of the name. Save. You could also use this if you're running your own Stratum servers or you're running your own mining pool and you want to periodically monitor that the Stratum connections aren't getting dropped to Stratum server. There's, numerous things you can do there. I went ahead and added the majority of my services here. And so what you can see is if we pop on over to the dashboard, right, everything looks good. All 20 are up. And not only will this help you with, monitoring uptime, you could actually use this as an aggregator and more of a dashboard for pretty much just everything running on your network, right? You can come in and something like Nextcloud, right? I'm running a Nextcloud instance. I put it in here. The uptime's important to me, but also just knowing what port it's running on, right? I can come in here, easily see that port and the IP and navigate to it. Something similar with like OnlyOffice, right? Which is a module for Nextcloud. Plex, Portainer is a big one for me. Both of my mining tools installations. My storage nodes. I even put Uptime Kuma in here itself. That way I can just monitor if it ever goes down. And then obviously my master nodes, right, are the important ones. But that's pretty much it for this video. Just wanted to walk you through how to set those up, what the options are, how to set up the notifications, because notifications certainly are important. I suggest heading to the settings section and just familiarizing yourself with this. You can come in here, set your time zone. If you do make this public over the internet, which mine isn't, mine's local to my network only, you can choose to have it hide from search engines. You can import Docker hosts into this so that you can manage Docker containers. It does have a dark theme and a light theme, so we can switch that. And then you can also change the heartbeat bar to either the bottom or normal, which is next to it to the right, which I actually like the one to the right. Notifications is where you can configure all of your notifications. Reverse proxy, if you need to use a reverse proxy, you certainly can. And then you can also shrink the database. You can tell it how long you want to keep the monitor history for. This is where you can kind of manage two-factor auth, things like that, if you're going to expose it externally. And any proxies that you may want to set up, you can do there as well. And then the only other thing I really didn't cover is you can set up tags. So if I wanted, let's just say I wanted to set up a tag called masternode, I could do that. So I can create a tag called masternodes. Oops, down here, you just type masternodes. You can specify a color. Let's just go with purple. We say add, and then we can tag that. And now we have this master nodes here, and it just puts a little indicator next to them to kind of stand out. Right, so if I come in, I know that this is a master node. Maybe on the decentralized storage ones, I want to flag those. It's a different color. I could come in and create decentralized storage. And maybe we'll just make those red. I'll add those. So I can add that one there, and then I can go to storage 2. And on this one, I can just select it because I've already created it. And we can do the same thing. We actually didn't add SC prime in here, which I can do that later. But that's pretty much it for this video.